Hello guys, my name's Will, and in this video I'd like to talk to you about an essential piece of knowledge that we as paddlers need to learn and know about. It's something called the Beaufort Scale. Now, the Beaufort Scale is a measure of the wind. Now, the Beaufort Scale can also be used to measure the state of the sea, or the sea state as it reacts to the wind. Now, as a paddler, that is an essential piece of knowledge that you need to know about. Now, for me, the Beaufort Scale isn't only a measure of the wind, but it's also a measure of the increasing risks that you may face on the water as wind speeds increase and affect the state of the sea. And knowing the state of the sea can be the difference between life and death before you head out onto the water, or even if you're on the water and the wind is increasing and the sea state is changing and catching you off guard. Now, why the Beaufort Scale? Because it's not good enough just to wake up in the morning, look out of the window and say, it's a nice sunny day today, doesn't look very windy, I'll head down to the beach, I'll get the kayak, we'll take the kids, we'll get everyone together, we'll make to the beach. Now, the winds inland and the winds at the beach along the coast can differ significantly. Now, if you live in a housing estate, you can look out the window, it looks great, the leaves are not moving much on the trees and you think it's good to go. That is a massive mistake. Even if you get to the sea and the sea is flat and it looks absolutely beautiful, it's imperative that you know what the wind and the weather and the sea state is going to do ahead of your journey, ahead of time, so that you don't get caught out in the sea state. This does happen, it has happened, and it can have tragic consequences. So for all intents and purposes, it's essential that you learn the Beaufort Scale. So take a look at this photo that we've got here of the Beaufort Scale. You can see you've got wind force to the left. You've got a description of the wind to the right of that. Again, as we move to the right, you've got the wind speed in kilometres, miles per hour and knots. Now, for me as a paddler, using the waterways quite a lot on my kayak, I use knots, not miles per hour or kilometres per hour. So that's what I'm looking for in my references when I'm checking the tide tables, charts and sea state. Across from that, we've got the specifications and how that wind is affecting the nature around it. Across from that, you've got probable wave heights in meters and the maximum wave height. And then across from that, you've got the actual sea state itself. This is very important for us. I mean, the whole thing's important, but the sea state is the one that you want to pay attention to. Okay, so if we take a look at zero wind, things are calm. The wind speed is at 1 knot or 1 kts as it's usually written. Smoke rises vertically. The sea is like a mirror. This is ideal for us as paddlers and increases minimal risk. Now, there are other risks associated with being on the water, but we're just going to concentrate on the sea state at the moment. Okay, so let's go down one to light air. This is 1 to 3 knots. Direction shown by smoke drift, but not by wind vanes or sea ripples. So the sea is still smooth here, and the sea state is at number 1. So that's okay for us. There's not much risk there at all imposed by the wind and its effects on the sea. Let's go down to light breeze. 4 to 6 knots. The wind is felt on your face. Leaves rustle, wind vane, moved by wind, small wavelets on the sea. Here we can see, as the sea state moves up to number 2, that the risk is increasing. Only slightly. I wouldn't say that there's a lot of risk involved in the sea state as it is at 2. However, if you find that you went out on a flat sea state and now there are wavelets, this indicates an increase in the wind. At this point, you need to check your phone and take a look at the weather and see what's happening. If you haven't already, it's essential that you do that now. Let's go down to 3, gentle breeze. 6 to 10 kts or knots of wind. For me personally, this is the most that I'll go out in as far as knots of wind. When the wind speed is at 10 knots or above, it's time to seriously consider whether or not your journey is worth making. Leaves and small twigs in constant motion, light flags extended, large wavelets on sea. Now, large wavelets, it's okay. You don't want to be caught sideways on those, or beam on, as they refer to it in sea terms. The sea state is at number 3. This is still doable, as in you can still make it back to the shore if you need to, if you're caught out in this sea state. Okay, right, let's move down one. Moderate breeze, 11 to 16 knots. Now for me, this is not a sea state that I want to be in. It's not a sea state that you want to be in. Raises dust and loose paper, small branches moved, small waves, fairly frequent white horses. The sea state here is 3 to 4. Now, white horses are an indication that the waves are breaking. You never want to be on the water when waves are breaking. A kayak is not designed for breaking water unless it's a white water kayak. The difference between a white water kayak and a sea kayak is that a white water kayak has no keel, and a sea kayak has a keel underneath it at each end. So if you turn a white water kayak sideways, the water will just, flow under it nice and smoothly. If you're caught out in breaking waves in white horses, your kayak is turned sideways, the force of the ocean on your keel can turn you or make you incredibly unstable. So at this point, this sea state, we're at number 4, moderate breeze. The sea state now becomes moderate. You don't want to be on a moderate sea in your kayak. It's time, well, it's not time to get out of there. By this point, you should have already got out of there and be on the shore. The sea states to look for in the reports when you're looking at tide tables and charts to go out are smooth to slight. Smooth to slight. Anywhere in between that is fine. So if the sea state is smooth, that's okay. If it's slight, that's all right. It's going to be a bit of swell and a bit, uncomfortable maybe, and it may be time for you to head in if you're not that experienced on the water. Smooth to slight. If you see a report that says slight to moderate, don't go. It's not worth it. It could be that you get out on the water and it's slight already and you're comfortable with that, and you've done that before and it's fine. But if it increases to moderate and those waves start breaking, it's incredibly dangerous and you need to get out of there. So that's a little breakdown. I won't go any further in the Beaufort Scale, because as far as I'm concerned, and for all intents and purposes, all you need to know is up to number 4. You don't want to be out in anything more than number 4. So we've got 5, we've got 6, we've got 7, we've got 8, we've got 9, we've got 10, 11 and 12 on that scale. You only want to be out on 4. Now imagine if you find yourself out on 5. Fresh breeze. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? Fresh breeze. We'll go out to the beach today. It's only a fresh breeze. It's only a fresh breeze. Get the kayaks together, get the family, let's go to the beach. It's going to be a fresh breeze. Let's take a look at a fresh breeze. 17 to 21 knots of wind. Small trees in leaf begin to sway. Crested wavelets form on inland waters. Moderate waves, many white horses. Or as I like to call it, suicide. Right, okay, that ends my input into the Beaufort Scale. So I hope that that's helped some of you to understand the Beaufort Scale. Now, Now, a way that this can really help is just check the weather and wind before you go to the sea. Don't just look out the window. Actually open the phone, look at the weather, look at the wind specifically, and then take a look at the Beaufort Scale. It sounds obvious, but for instance, if it says 16 mile an hour wind today, but it looks lovely and sunny out the window and you've got no wind inland, but you want to go to the sea, just take that 16 knots of wind or mile an hour, however it's written, and compare it to the Beaufort Scale. You may be surprised at what you find. And just to finish this off, always wear a life jacket. And always take a means of communication, ideally a VHF radio that you can communicate directly to the Coast Guard with. If you've got one of these and you're worried about going out, because there's so much discussion about whether or not I need a license or not. Now, this is going to be a controversial thing to say. No one has ever been prosecuted for using a VHF radio without a license to save their lives. If you've got a radio and you're already making your way out onto the water without it because you're scared of prosecution, take it with you. You might not have to use it. Just keep it on you. You might not have to use it. So people are not going to say, oh, you can't have a license. You may need a license to use it. You don't need a license to carry it with you. So that when you are in a life-saving situation and your life is at risk, turn it on and make that call. Plenty of videos on YouTube that will show you how to use this correctly, the right etiquette, so that you can make that life-saving call. But I reiterate, no one has ever been prosecuted for using a VHF radio to save their lives. It's an essential bit of kit. You must take one with you if you go out onto the water. And again, a life jacket, essentially one with pockets, so you can put your radio in the pocket. The CO2 canister life jackets that you pull the cord don't usually have pockets, so you need to fit this somewhere convenient that you can get it, you know, while you're climbing the ladder or struggling in the water. So a PFD with a pocket's essential. So if you're just floating on your back, float to live, floating on your back, you can just pull it out and make that call to save your life. Alright guys, well I hope this video's helped someone somewhere, and take care and safe paddling, and I'll see you on the water. Take care, have a good day, bye bye.